What is going on, YouTube family? Let's talk dating apps. I've had so many conversations recently with family members, friends, my flatmates specifically, about the effect that dating apps is having on relationships, on our social ability, on confidence, and whether it's really a net positive or a net negative. And it's not looking amazing, but let's talk about it. So the initial question that I have in these conversations with my friends is dating apps actually making the dating landscape, making getting and finding relationships, regardless of what type of relationship it is it making it easier? Is it making that better? What I'm noticing is that there's one common theme, and the common theme is generally people are not speaking to each other as much and are not meeting each other as much in person as the start of that romantic relationship. That's generally the case so far. And this is where dating apps have come in. And I think one of the initial positive aspects for dating apps and why it worked for so many people and is working for so many people in this way is that people who naturally feel less confident, they naturally aren't that social, maybe introverted, find it a lot easier to meet a potential partner because they can do this using the dating app as the bridge, as opposed to speaking in person, right? So that's one of the first main positives that dating apps has had on the world, on society, and for those people. The real issue that I have personally and that I've noticed is that what's now happening is the people that were maybe more extroverted or are quite social or have the ability to be social more naturally are now becoming more introverted in that sense. And a lot of these people actually aren't developing the social skills in that way to be able to meet and attract someone in real life and in person. So because they're relying on the dating apps to do this. And you may argue, some may argue inherently that's not an issue. So what? The problem here comes where now with these dating apps, inherently we're learning, through this process, because dating apps is, in the grand scheme of human history, it's a very, very new thing. So we're learning how it's affecting us and how we relate to it and how we interface with it as we go along. But what we're finding is that there's two main issues. One is an issue of perceived value. So the amount of matches that we get, similar to getting a like on a post or on a photo on Instagram, there is a dopamine rush that you get. And I would assume, I don't know the science behind this, but I would assume getting a match from someone that's a potential romantic partner or a hookup or whatever it is, gives us quite a big dopamine rush. And so there's a perceived value that we get with the amount of matches that we're receiving. The problem with this now is that, let's say someone isn't getting many matches. This is an issue with a lot of men specifically, where it's become, for whatever reason, I might have my theories, but for whatever reason, men are generally getting less matches. In general, I'm generalizing here, but men are getting less matches, finding it harder to match with women that they are attracted to. And so their perceived value of themselves becomes lower, which we don't need to go into this now, but for many reasons, this is obviously a negative thing, and a detrimental thing. So, and this can be the same for women as well, of course. What I'm noticing just from conversations and from what I'm seeing is that women generally don't have a problem getting matches. The problem with the women is that they have a problem with actually finding someone that they really, really like and connect with, and that can potentially be a partner for them. And even going on the date or finding a date to go on is a problem for a lot of women. My flatmate, for example, in many conversations we've had about this, she has, I don't even know how many matches, hundreds, thousands of matches, yet she still struggles to go on a date with someone for many reasons, right? I think the perceived value is one issue. That's an issue definitely that men will experience a lot as well. And the second reason is the illusion of options. So we have all of these options, right? From the matches that we get. Women tend to get more, and especially attractive women have hundreds and thousands of matches. That in our minds, and this is a big issue, in our minds, the way we see this human being on our phone is a lot more disposable, because if they don't match this ideal, perfect archetype in our head, it's okay, we can go to the next one. The grass is always greener. And this is an issue for many reasons. And this is something I've spoken about, especially with my flatmate many times, is she will get ghosted, ignored a lot of the time. And I know men get ghosted and ignored all the time, even after they've matched. So we have this kind of dichotomy. You might have a whole bunch of matches, but actually nobody's replying, or not many of them are replying. And you're not getting, maybe you have one or two messages, and then they ghost for no apparent reason. And so what this really does to men and women is really can affect your confidence, can affect their confidence in themselves, in dating in general, and really just discourage people from making an effort with dating. People are struggling, right? And this also adds to the epidemic that we're in of loneliness, right? So if people are feeling discouraged, they're feeling less valuable, less worthy of dating, of a partner, of that whole thing, they're less motivated, less encouraged to go out and actually do that, because they don't want to, for one. They don't know how to, they don't have the confidence to, they don't have the knowledge in how to actually do this in the best way. And so it's this vicious circle where we then go on the dating apps because of this, and it's the easiest way to find someone, but then we're having all of these problems, all of these issues on the apps themselves. So it's a really difficult situation that we're in general. I think one of the reasons that people are also really attracted to using dating apps rather than going out and meeting people in real life is really a fear of rejection, right? It's a fear of rejection, and it's convenience. It's very easy, it's convenient, it's safe, it's comfortable to just be on your phone in your room and speak to people and potentially meet a partner, meet a date. But going out, putting yourself out there, your humanness, your personality, you as a being, is risky, it's scary, fear of rejection, you might get rejected. And like we've spoken about briefly in another video, that's a real, it's a real reason to be scared of that. It's hardwired in us to fear rejection. But it stops us from doing that because of this convenience and this comfortability in our phone and having dating apps there. The issue now comes where, what I've heard with a lot of women is they want to meet more men in person now. They want to be approached more, but men don't have the confidence, and men don't typically do this anymore. It's a dying art form, let's say, because before phones, it was the only way you could meet someone was to speak to them and to meet them in person. There are many other issues surrounding this and making it worse. For example, nightlife culture is going downhill, the economy, people generally aren't going out as much. People aren't partying as much where you would typically meet someone. Obviously, work from home culture is a bigger thing. A lot of people would meet their potential partner or meet someone that they would date in the workplace. And now we've got more hybrid lifestyle. A lot more people are working from home. So there's a lot of angles to which you can look at this, and it makes the whole dating process a lot more difficult for people. But that's just a few of the issues. Let's now talk about what I feel, at least, is the solution, or maybe not even the solution, but definitely something that will help these situations. And it's very, very simple. It comes down to practicing and learning to get back to becoming a more open and social person in person, right? And a lot of people have different names for this. So you can call it cold approach. I wouldn't even go that far and say, to practice going out and intentfully speaking to someone and being direct in your approach. But I'm just saying, learning to be more social in person, learning to be more comfortable, be more confident, so that you can start interactions with people you don't know, people that you're attracted to, a lot more easily, and not having to rely on dating apps. Speaking to my flatmate a lot about this, I gave her some tips in terms of, she always sees, men that she's attracted to, out and about, maybe at the bus stop. And there was this one specific guy who she was talking about that she always sees at the bus stop. And I said, have you spoke to him? And then she said, no. And I was like, has he spoke to you? And then she was like, no. Okay, so without this being a video about how men can be better, because I think generally men can be better and should practice that social thing to attract women, right? I think women should also take some of the power into their own hands, right? And I'm not necessarily saying that you should always initiate as a woman, but I think you should, if you really like a guy, for example, as a woman, feel comfortable enough, feel confident enough to start the interaction to open the door for that. I think this is not a video on coaching men, but I do think that men should be able to initiate a conversation with a woman they're attracted to. And that just should be a thing. But I think specifically talking to my flatmate who's a female, use more open body language, compliment someone, just being friendly. And I think that is such an easy, basic way to start conversation with someone, regardless of if you're attracted to them or not, just complimenting them on something, right? Their shoes, what they're wearing, their perfume, their cologne, whatever it is. Open up a conversation with a compliment is a very easy way to do that. And that was just one way. I think for anyone, regardless, woman or man, I think we should learn to just say hello to people more. Again, that opens up conversation. Very simple thing to do, but it's something that we don't do, at least in the UK culture and society, and specifically in London, we don't speak to people. So I think opening up conversations more and just really developing social skills like it's a muscle. I think what tends to happen is it's very easy on a dating app to come across and put a persona of yourself through the text as if you're maybe someone that's super confident, super good with their words. And then when you meet that specific person in real life, they're not at all, right? And then there's a mismatch. And then maybe you're not as attracted to that person in real life. Whereas if we work on building our social skills, building ourselves, social awareness, eye contact, body language, this sort of stuff, we become that person. And then if we were to use the dating apps or whatever, there isn't this mismatch anymore because we've developed this muscle, this social muscle in real life. So we actually are that confident, social, witty person. In my case, having traveled and toured the world as part of my job for the last 8 to 10 years, I've obviously been around people in real life in different environments, really busy, really social environments, quieter environments, more intimate environments. So I've developed this skill over the years. And I think it's one of, as you can probably tell from this video, it's one of my passions to start to really teach this, coach this, and help people with their social skills, and actually developing this also in a dating context. So it helps people feel more open, feel more confident, so they can attract a partner and just enjoy that process of dating without, the stress of, all the dating apps and that whole minefield that we've spoken about for many reasons. So this was just some thoughts I had for today. I thought I'd get it on camera. In another video, I'll go more specifically into some of the techniques, some of the ways in which I know can help people become more social, more open, more attractive, more magnetic in social scenarios, so we can get out of dating apps and stop relying on them as much and actually attract people in a romantic, in a friendly, in any sort of context, much more, okay? I hope this makes sense. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like what you're seeing, if you can relate in any way, please comment. Definitely like and subscribe, and you will see some more videos. Have a wonderful week. Peace.